Welcome to our August, let me turn on my video. Okay, welcome everyone to the August Fire Safe Sonoma Fire Alliance meeting. It's a monthly meeting we have, and we invite guest speakers once a month to come and talk to folks about things that are relevant with regard to wildland fire safety and risk reduction, in particulars in Sonoma County. So I see some familiar faces. Sam's on board. Thanks, Sam. Oh my gosh, you jumped in earlier than we thought. He's connecting to audio now. I thought I saw Carolyn. Yeah, there's Carolyn. Carolyn, hey, how are you? Good to see you again. Okay, so welcome. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Marika and I will be facilitating the program. My name is Roberta McIntyre. I'm the President CEO of Fire Safe Sonoma, the Countywide Fire Safe Council. And this Alliance meeting kind of evolved out of a thing we were doing about a year ago to kind of bring people together to talk about various things that are going on with regard to wildland fire safety in Sonoma County. And it evolved from an informal group to like a monthly guest speaker series. So that's what we're doing now. Last month we had Amy Bach from United Policyholders. She gave us a lot of really good information. And next month we will have a representative or two from IBHS. I can never remember what IBHS stands for, but they're insurance. Help me out, Marika, if you can. Insurance. I don't know. But anyway, they do testing for insurance companies, and they've been doing a lot of work with regard to structural hardening and defensible space. And they've actually recently established a set of standards that I think the insurance companies are going to be leaning on as their measuring stick for what they would consider homes that have done work to reduce fire risk.
It's Roberta. It's Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. I think it's okay. We didn't get that one.
Okay, thanks. Somebody got it.
Yes.
Yeah, 1,000 Drew Carey points for whoever got that. Okay, and if you've ever seen Drew Carey, you'll know what I mean. All right, so yeah, so Marika, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let us know if anybody signed up to do to have a little space in the front, and if not, tell folks about that opportunity if you don't mind.
Totally. And I'll just remind everybody to put your name and any organization or community group that you're affiliated with in the chat. That would be awesome. And so yeah, I'm Marika Ramsden from Fire Safe Sonoma. And what we are asking community members to do, and anybody that joins, if you would like to share with us ahead of time, we'll always send out in our announcement a link to a survey. If you have any events or resources that you think would be helpful for the community and would like to share them wider, please fill out that form. That form will always be in our announcements. So please do fill out that form, and then we can help spread the word. We can put it on our social media. Yeah, we'd love to help support you any way that we can. We didn't have any submissions for this month. But we do have something we would like to promote. On the 25th of August at 6 p.m., Roberta will be walking everybody through how to become a FireWise community, the process, the benefits to that, and how we at Fire Safe Sonoma can support you in that process. So I'm going to drop the link to that in the chat, and you can RSVP ahead of time. And that way you'll get all the information that you need to attend that meeting. And we would love to see you all there. So I'm going to hand that back to Roberta.
Great, thanks much, Marika, appreciate it. And yeah, just to echo what Marika said about the opportunity we're giving folks on the front end is, if you've got any announcements you want to make or things like that, feel free to let us know, and then we'll give you a little bit of space to basically give you a little bit of a soapbox on this platform to share whatever you're thinking or whatever event you have coming up. Yeah, so we're hoping that'll help folks out and be advantageous to folks. Okay, so I talked about upcoming events already. All right, so with us today is Sam Wallis. He is the Sonoma County Department of Emergency Management Community Alert and Warning Manager. And Sam and I go back a little ways. I don't want to say how long because I'm too old to remember. But anyway, as the Community Alert and Warning Manager, he plans, manages, and coordinates the operation of the county's Community Alert and Warning Program. And he's kind of like the commander-in-chief of the Emergency Operations Center, I believe. He can correct me if I'm wrong. But he's also the liaison with other organizations involved in alert and warning programs and systems, and he coordinates activities with other entities like the volunteer ham operators in Sonoma County. That group he's joined at the hip with pretty much, et cetera. So with that, yeah, I'm going to hand it off to you, Sam, and let you take it away.
Well, thank you very much for the kind introduction, Roberta. That's much nicer than I'm used to getting, to tell you the truth. No, I'm not actually the commander-in-chief of the Emergency Operations Center, but I've actually been in it so much, I'm actually legally registered to vote out of the Emergency Operations Center at this point.
That's not voter fraud, is it? That's not voter fraud, is it?
No, it's just that's practically my legal residence at this point.
Gotcha.
Although for the last year and a half, thankfully, I haven't spent a single night in there, so I guess that's been a good thing. So, but in general, I am occasionally in charge of the Emergency Operations Center when everybody else is tired of doing it. That's usually when they turn it over to me, and usually about that time the fire has burned down enough or whatever that they trust me with it. So so you're not wholly wrong. I do end up there quite a bit. So thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me. I always like an opportunity to talk about this. I'm recognizing a few familiar names and faces, and you've probably already heard me talk about some of this before. Like Roberta said, I am the Community Alert and Warning Manager for the Sonoma County Department of Emergency Management, and that all fits on one business card, but the type is really small, but it is all crammed in there. So what I'd like to do is, if I could share my screen here, I've got my PowerPoint slideshow. Hopefully it is, do you see the full slide or I think I might have called it the wrong one.
No, it looks right on my end, Sam.
Okay, fantastic. So our discussion today is alert and warning and talking about a whole bunch of things. But before we actually talk about alert and warning, and I think it's appropriate, is that I don't think I need to tell anybody in this group about what the threat of wildfire is, but that does have kind of a background in how we approach alert and warning in Sonoma County. And obviously, for those of you that survived the 2017 Nuns Tubs fire, alert and warning was a real issue. A lot of people didn't get notified at all or too late to be of any value. I don't want to rehash a lot of that. I'd be happy to rehash it, just not here, because it's a fascinating story. But one of the things that came out of that is that Sonoma County really had an epic shift in alert and warning, and our realization about how important it was that we get the word out for everybody. And this is especially true for certain people with what we call access and functional needs that may not have everything they need when the time comes. We lost, unfortunately, 24 people in the Nuns Tubs fire between us and Napa County. And if you look at the breakdown of them, there's the people that passed away, there's a very important commonality among all of them. And that was that they had some problems getting, we believe, alerts and warning. 75% of them were over the age of 65. So they may not have had, the most modern cell phone or that sort of thing. A smaller percentage of them, very small, had physical disabilities that prevented them from easily getting out of the affected area. And of the remaining two, one of them was not from the area. He was visiting, and so he was not tied into whatever alerting systems we had. You begin to see a pattern in what's happening there, is that there are so many people that were killed in this simply because they weren't able to get the information about what was going on as early as possible. So when I was brought on board, very much as the alert and warning manager, my instructions were very clear that we have to dramatically improve our ability to do alert and warning. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done. I'm not going to pat myself on the back or what we've done, although I will do a little patting. I'm also going to be talking about some challenges that we have in getting out the alerts. And this is especially true in some of our more rural parts of the county, where telecommunications is spotty on the best of days. So this is kind of an agenda. I wanted to talk a little bit of what about an emergency manager is. There's a lot of confusion about that, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Then we're going to talk about all of the different methods that we have, all the alert and warning systems that we have. I'm going to talk about how they work, but I'm also going to tell you why they don't work in certain circumstances, because I think it's important for everybody to understand that. I'm going to talk about the best practices that we've adopted on what we're going to try and communicate with you and what we may not be able to tell you. And we are going to go into why we may not be able to alert you at all. I'm definitely going to be talking about some of the things that we have learned through painful experiences, and we're going to talk about the things that we have improved. And I'm going to tell you also about my fantasies about the future of what alert and warning is going to hold and where I hope to take it, or at least maybe somebody who comes after me. And by the way, I fully expect to have a lot of comments and questions. If you really got to ask them, feel free to jump in there or raise a hand. Otherwise, I understand we're going to have a big old session of Q&A at the end of it. So with that, let's talk about what an emergency manager is. We're a very obscure branch of the government. There's not that many of us. There's only about 7 emergency managers in the county government right now. There's a few more scattered around some of the cities. We do a lot of stuff you never ever see. We have, we're very much involved in doing a lot of planning and preparedness for the next disaster. When that disaster comes, we are very much integrating the response to it. But to make it clear, we're not firefighters, we're not law enforcement, we're not a variety of things. We're actually coming from many different backgrounds, and our primary role, when you get right down to it, is to bring all of those different agencies and those different organizations and get them under one tent and talking to each other so that everybody is going the same direction. We don't actually run anything. We have no legal authority to order anybody to do anything. Our main role is to get everybody talking both before the emergency and during the emergency, and get them all going in the same direction. Once the disaster is over, we are very much involved in recovery, which a lot of people don't think about. We're working with maybe the federal agencies like FEMA, the Corps of Engineers. We're working with state agencies to make sure that we have those dollars coming in to help rebuild our infrastructure and take care of everybody. So there's a local assistance centers that you may see crop up. That's an emergency management function that we work with a variety of government agencies to get them all together. And then once we're done with recovery, we start going into mitigation and preparedness to get ready for the next disaster. It's kind of a never-ending cycle. I want to focus, because my main focus for the most part is on the response part of that. And I have a very important part of that response at the very beginning. From the emergency manager's perspective, and from your perspective probably, the 3 things you probably care most about are being alerted, being evacuated, and being sheltered. And all 3 of those functions more or less fall under emergency management. The sheriff is actually responsible for, has the legal authority for evacuation, but we help the sheriff implement those evacuations. But the alert and warning, which we're going to talk about in depth, that's something that falls completely on me for the most part. So I forgot that I had all of these cool bullet comments, so we'll just get through them. And I should say there's a bunch of other stuff that we do that most of you don't probably care about, quite frankly. It's things that are happening in the background to help us take care of everything. Well, with that quick primer on what we're doing as emergency managers, let's talk about our main event, which is the alert and warning. And I do need to distinguish between them. We use those terms sometimes interchangeably. An alert is simply us reaching out and telling you, hey, something's going on. You need to wake up. You need to pay attention. A warning, in our definition, is specific information that we need you to follow for your safety. So, for instance, an alert may simply be a phone call in the middle of the night saying, hey, there's a wildfire out there. That's an alert. A warning is there's a wildfire. It's at this location. We need you to evacuate right now because we think it's heading your way. So there's kind of a distinction there. I just wanted to explain what the difference between them. Now let's talk about the various alert and warning systems we have, and we actually have a bunch. Now we only use really a couple of these during the Nuns Tubbs fire, but for the rest of them, we have used every single one of them since the Nuns Tubbs fire. And the number one you might be aware of is Soco Alert. And I do want to go into a bit of a depth on Soco Alert to explain what it isn't. Now, Soco Alert is designed to reach out primarily to your telephone system as a phone call. Both myself and Jorge, my co-worker who handles the Spanish language side of it, we will record a message. We will put it in the machine. We will go onto our computer and we will designate an area, and we say everybody that lives in this area, we want you to call them and give them our message in English and Spanish. And that's our primary way of doing a very geographically targeted alert. Now, the challenge with it is that, and by the way, Soco Alert will also go to cell phones with text alerts, emails. We also use it to populate social media. But really, the meat of it is the ability to make that phone call. But there's a challenge with that, is that if you are not in your database, or in our database rather, then the system won't call you. It doesn't know you exist. There is no magic here. And unfortunately, building that database, and I'll go into that a little bit more in depth, has been challenging. Once we realized what the problem was, we had, at least my predecessors, had been very accepting of the fact that we get the AT&T database, for instance. We purchase it from AT&T, and we put that into the system, and they were kind of fat, dumb, and happy, saying, hey, this is great. We've got everybody's landline. Well, the problem is the world is changing very rapidly. Landlines are, quite frankly, dying. A number that I can give you right now is the last year when I purchased the AT&T landline database, there was 131,000 landlines left in Sonoma County. That was it. 131,000, which is less than one landline for every 3 people. This year when I bought it, it was down to 121,000. So we lost about 10% of the landlines in Sonoma County in 1 year. And what's worse is that that does not represent 121,000 households. Over 50% of those landlines are going to businesses, which I frankly am not that worried about alerting. So we're realizing more and more, we now realize, and we're working more and more and realizing that that doesn't work. We need other sources of information, and I'll dig into that a little bit more. But let's move on to our next major system. And for those of you that were around for the Nuns Tubbs, may recognize the Wireless Emergency Alert System, or WEA, mainly by its absence of use. It was not used during the Nuns Tubbs fire. We took a lot of justifiable flack for that. The Wireless Emergency Alert System is actually a federal system. Basically, it is, I like to describe it as the Amber Alerts on steroids. If your cell phone is able to receive the alert, then you will, instead of just getting a passive text message, you'll still get a text message, but it'll also be accompanied by a very loud, annoying, and hopefully frightening tone. That's the good news. The bad news about it is we've done a lot of experimenting with it. It doesn't always work. Depending on where you are, geographically. For those of you that are in the Occidental area, we did a test of this system, oh gosh, I'm losing track, 2 years ago now. So we are aware of the limitations of it. We were only able to get about 25% of the cell phone users in the Occidental area that were participating in the test. So we know it's got limitations, but it's still a system that we're going to use in addition to Soco Alert. Another one you're probably all familiar with is the emergency alert system. I believe this is actually misnamed because the emergency alert system doesn't really do a good job of alerting people. This is that familiar tone for those of you that are in my generation or before. You probably remember when every once in a while that god-awful tone would come over the radio or the television, and you were supposed to get under your desk because that was the end of the world. It's still around. We still do it. We still use it and have used it in Sonoma County. The problem is that it's not able to wake you up. If you have gone to bed and turned off your TV, this isn't going to reach you at all. So we use this as kind of a supplementary information system. We still put it out there, but we don't rely on it simply because we know that not everybody happens to be listening to the radio. Even if they're awake, they may not be listening to the radio. They may be listening to their favorite podcast or whatever, or their CD. Just not as many people are listening to radio or watching local TV stations as the once were, and that number continues to drop. My understanding is FEMA is experimenting with a new system that will be able to break into streaming services locally, but it hasn't quite fully constituted itself yet. So probably everybody here is on Nixle. Nixle is a great system. Our primary user of Nixle in the county is not me. It is the Sheriff's Department. I work very closely with the Sheriff's Department when we get into alerting, but they're the primary users, and there are also several local fire agencies that also use Nixle. While Nixle is a great warning system in the sense that it gets information out, it's not a good alerting system. If you are asleep, unless you have an incredibly annoying little ping from receiving a text message, this probably isn't going to wake you up. It's absolutely fabulous to get information once you know what's going on. It isn't really a good way of getting you up and going if it's the 2 in the morning, what I like to call the 2 in the morning test. I do want to talk also about Noaa weather radios. One of the challenges of those 4 systems that I've talked about prior to this, or the 3 of them, not counting the emergency alert system, is that they all really rely on a telephone system. I can't reach you if your telephone isn't working. I can't reach you with Soco Alert. I cannot reach you with the emergency alert system. I can't even send you a Nixle. If the system is down, the system is down. And we've seen that happen. During the Nuns Tubs fire, during the height of the fire, we lost 72 cell phone towers that were either destroyed or knocked out of operation at the very point where we needed to be communicating with people the most. Also, if we have a power shutoff, either a public safety power shutoff, which PG&E occasionally likes to do, or if you just so happen to be in West County and it's a really rainy day, you just might have the power go out. The moment that power goes out, your landlines, most of your landlines cease to be functioning. If it's a prolonged one, the batteries might go out in the cell tower, and if the utility, the public utility isn't on top of it and actually gets a generator hooked up to it, we can eventually lose our ability to communicate with you. We've been painfully aware of that, and that's why we're beginning to push the Noaa weather radio. This is actually very old technology. It's been around for, 30 or 40 years. It's been used extensively in the Midwest. Basically, it's a very simple weather radio. The National Weather Service is putting out a 24/7 automated weather report that this can pick up. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, nice to have. But what's really important is when it's set up properly, I can actually press a few buttons on my computer screen. It will turn itself on. It doesn't have to be on. It can actually turn itself on, fire off a god-awful noisy alarm, and then start giving you some very basic information. We've been really pushing these in the county. between us, City of Santa Rosa, and I think Sonoma County Fire, we've distributed about 16,000 of these, which is really a drop in the bucket considering we have 230,000 households. But our hope is that more and more people will adopt this as an auxiliary communication system so that I can actually reach out to you during major disasters and get you some very basic information. As we move on from Noaa, weather radios, everyone here should be familiar now with the high-low siren. This is this point where I embarrass myself by attempting to make the sound, but it's that European siren that you see in the movies, you know, dee-doo, dee-doo. That has been installed in all of the sheriff's patrol cars, and I think almost all of the police cars that are now in the county. And that's specifically, they want a distinctive siren that if you hear it, it makes you think, okay, that's not just some police officer heading for an emergency. That's something that affects me. Now, I will tell you that while we're glad we have this, there's a couple of challenges with this, obviously. There are only so many police officers, and during a disaster, getting enough police officers or sheriff's deputies out there with their high-low sirens driving up and down the roads can be challenging. We make every effort to do that, but it can be rough getting them, especially in a situation where there may actually only be 2 or 3 deputies, say, in all of West County in the evening, and there's a lot of ground for them to cover. The other challenge we have is that we've, as Americans, have spent the last 50 or 100 years improving our construction technologies to make our houses as soundproof as possible. And the result is that sirens like this are very hard to hear. If you're all buttoned up in your house, you got the air conditioning on, this thing can drive right by you and you don't hear it. We've, again, done some tests with these. We very often, when we do a evacuation drill of a community, we will include the high-low siren. We ask the participants, did you hear the high-low siren? And under 50% will actually hear the high-low siren, even when they know it's coming and they're listening for it. So it is a tool in our toolbox, but it isn't a perfect tool. Now, I will tell you, at a certain point, if the fire is right on top of a neighborhood, the law enforcement, if they've got the resources, they're not going to be just using the high-low siren. They're going to be banging on people's doors. They're going to go door to door until they are satisfied that nobody is in that house. Now, that may not be as long as you think, because if you're one deputy and there's 50 houses and the fire is right there, you may not be able to spend a lot of time on each individual house, but the deputies will try and do that when the time comes. It's unfortunately, I wouldn't rely on that for them getting you out, just because there's so many houses and not enough time. Now, oops, I forgot the picture that went with that. Really, this is where I go to organizations like Fire Safes, CERT, all those different community-based Map Your Neighborhood agencies. Literally, the most effective thing that we can do is neighbor to neighbor. Now, if you look at the numbers, when I use a Soco Alert, I only reach about 50% of the people that we're trying to communicate with. There's a variety of reasons that will go into that for that. When I used a wireless emergency alert, at best, I'm going to get about 50 to 60% of the people. If Nixel's not going to wake them up. The Noaa weather radios still aren't a major factor. So if you do the math, there's still going to be 10 to 20% of the people that are simply not going to get an alert, no matter how much we try, for a variety of reasons. And that's why I feel it's very important, and I urge you all to make this part of your community group plan, is know your neighbor ahead of time, communicate with your neighbor, and just have that pact that if you get the alert, take the time to communicate with your neighbor on the left and right or behind you, even if it takes only 5 or 10 extra minutes, and that really brings up our percentages of getting a hold of everybody. I can't emphasize it enough, is that the other part of that is, if somebody gets an alert and they only get it from one source, psychologically they may not want to act. they may say, oh, I'm not sure if that applies to me, but if the neighbor is pounding on their door and my ringer is going off, then yeah, it can that can make a big difference. So please, yeah, please help me out on that. So, all right. Does anybody have any questions about the various alerting systems we have before we move on?
Yeah, it looks like, Sam, there are some questions in the queue. So I'll kind of toss them over to you. And I think I can answer this first one. Does the fire department also have the high lows? Yeah, I think the fire engines and the ambulance both have that switch on the alarm head where they can click from just the solid, what we used to call a grinder siren over to the European high low. So I think the ambulance and fire departments have that as well. Would you agree with that, Sam?
I believe so, but I'll tell you that most of your fire engines, especially in a fire situation, are not going to be doing evacuation. They're going to be trying to put out the fire. But yes, I do believe that they do have that option.
Yeah. And then another question was setting up the Noaa radio. I remember we've kind of, Fire Safe Sonoma and Fire Safe Guerneville, we kind of inspired you all to come up with a program on how to get stuff set up through the libraries. But there was a question about how to set up the Noaa radio. Do you want to talk a little bit about that real quick?
I can. So if you've received a Noaa weather radio from one of our giveaways, they're actually just about all ready to go. Okay. All you really got to do is, they're already set up for Sonoma County. They're already set up to receive the alert. All you really got to do is put the batteries in, plug it into the wall, extend the antenna all the way out, and then there's a little black switch on the side that says on, off, and you'd be surprised how many people leave it off. It just has to be flicked to on. At that point, if you've got the Noaa weather radio, there's a large button on the front. In fact, I'm going to, hold on a second, let me get rid of my, let me stop sharing my screen and I'll switch to camera because I happen to have, can you all see me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So here is a Noaa weather radio that I keep on my desk. As you can see, it's plugged in. I've got the antenna all the way up. And at this point, it's basically ready to go. If I press this big button on the front, it looks like a smiley face. I don't think they did that on purpose. You're going to hear this. Well, in this case, you've got static. So I moved it just slightly. I keep it by my window. I can actually hear a voice. Let me see if I can. Okay, now I'm worried. I'm going to have to check with them and make sure they're up running. They do occasionally go down, unfortunately. But if you've got it set up properly, you're going to hear a voice that is giving a 24/7 weather report. It's a mechanical version. And if you can hear that voice, even if it's a very staticky voice, then you are going to be able to receive the actual alert. Let me go ahead and just do the test alert so you can get an idea of how loud the alarm is going to sound like. And it sounds something like this. And that's really all there. That's the simple version. Now, the devil's in the details sometimes. The trick, because I've probably answered about 40 or 50 people that have called me and told me their radio does not work. Every single one of them I've gotten it to work, but sometimes it does take things like moving it around the house to find a place that it actually does get good reception. Unfortunately, it comes back to our houses are so well built now that they are cutting out the they're cutting out the signals, unfortunately.
Can people get like an external antenna kit?
Well, yes, I haven't found a good one that's inexpensive. Our auxiliary communication service has actually been experimenting with a way of making a inexpensive antenna, and we're testing those, quite frankly. But right now, the cheapest one they've given me is actually 3 times the cost of the radio. The radio only costs about $25 to $30 if you buy it online. The cheapest antenna they've given me so far has been $80. So we're still kind of experimenting with that. But again, the most part, almost everywhere in the county, and I saw the question pop up about a map of the dead zone. If you do Google National Weather Service or NOAA Weather Radio Maps, there is a website that the National Weather Service and NOAA keeps up, and you will find the specific propagation map for Sonoma County. You just got to click around until you find the one for Sonoma County. But I'm not 100% sure if that map is accurate. I think it's based on terrain modeling. But I will say that I've gone out to a lot of places where I thought that there would be no signal, and I've gotten signal, and I've also gotten to places where there was supposed to be a signal and there wasn't any. So unfortunately, it's not a perfect system, not claiming it is, but it's at least a system that we're trying to get out there that isn't relying on the phone system.
Okay. My NOAA radio hasn't registered the test questions. Also, the word NOAA blinks steadily. Is that a problem? Does that
Yes.
sound okay?
That is a problem. So if your light is blinking steadily, that means we've, and actually this ties into another question that I saw pop up there about testing. Your NOAA weather radio actually receives a test every week. The National Weather Service will put out a test communication Wednesdays between 11 and 12. It's a silent test though. It will not make your NOAA weather radio go crazy. It will instead, it'll just make your lights flash. If you look at the LED, you'll see the words required weekly tests scroll across that, and that lets you know the system has in fact received the alert. However, if you have not received an alert for 10 days, then you'll start having those lights turn on, and it might also give you a little chirping sound from time to time, and that's to let you know that you haven't received a signal. If you're in a situation like that, feel free to give me a call. I'll give you my phone number at the end of this, and we'll see if we can figure out some way to help you on that. I see that Lynn mentions that, yes, double pane windows are a problem with this, and putting outside is a possibility. Hopefully we'll be able to get an inexpensive external antenna that people will be able to use. The system is designed to have an external antenna, but Midland doesn't really put out a good product that will take care of everybody.
Okay. Yeah, I might actually try something there. I used to have a portable scanner. I put it in my car, and it had a device I could plug into it, and had a suction cup that I could stick on the outside window of the car with a little antenna. I might try that on my NOAA because mine's bouncing off of a signal that's most of the time pretty weak. So I might try that. I don't know that much about antennas. I know that they can be kind of specific to the signal you're trying to grab.
Yeah, that's why I turned it over to my auxiliary communication systems people. They're way smarter than me. So let's see. I'm not sure if I answered all the questions.
One came up. Let's see. Well, I do want to reinforce what Priscilla and Jeff said, and that's pretty much have a buddy system, particularly in your neighborhood. Start a COPE group or something like that. COPE is great. And in particular, you might have folks in your neighborhood that are hearing impaired or otherwise aren't getting the message, and you want to know in your neighborhood who those folks are, so you can go knock on the door and tell them, hey, do you know what's going on? You know, you might be thinking about, you know, getting out of here if you need to. So yeah, so I want to echo Priscilla and Jeff's comments there, is have the buddy system, have a COPE group, have a system where you neighbor to neighbor, you can go out and let folks know what's going on if they're not doing it otherwise. So and then the question, it feels like it's starting to go a little off of the NOAA, but is Soco Alert the same as Code Red?
Yes, so we brand it locally as Soco Alert, but it actually is, all we've done is we've licensed Code Red, which in turn is run by a company called OnSolve. So they're all basically the same thing, but we call it Soco Alert locally.
Okay. All right, I think that gets us caught up to date on the questions in the queue, so.
All right. Well, how are we doing on time? Am I doing okay?
Yeah, I think so. Marika, are you watching the time? It's 2:40. Yeah, we've got an
Okay.
easy.
You're
Yeah,
doing great.
yeah.
All right, sounds good. I did want to kind of show you an example of how the various systems work, more of a graphic thing. This is an example of, for instance, if Soco Alert, if I was trying to activate this area, which is just east of Highway 101, I actually go into the computer program and I highlight specifically where I want it to work. And it's going to call, again, everybody who's registered in the database with their phone number and their address being within this area. Now, the challenge with that is, let's say your home is there. Well, you're going to still get your alert at work. If your cell phone is registered and associated with your home, but you're at work, you're still going to get an alert for it. The problem is your daughter, which might be just outside the zone, she's not going to get the alert. So that's just kind of a graphic representation of it's really where you're registered on your database. I'm not sure if that makes sense there, but I'm trying to make some sense of it. Now, by comparison, with the wireless emergency alert, it isn't geographically controllable. There's a whole bunch of variables that are going on. If I were to use that exact same shape with the wireless emergency alert, it might look something like this. We have absolutely seen situations where we try and alert a specific area, and for whatever the reason, the system doesn't communicate with areas that we want to, but it also communicates with areas that we don't want it to. A lot of the reason for this is it isn't a homogeneous system. Basically what's happening is that we're putting out information and each individual cell carrier is interpreting the data that we're giving to them and sending it out in their own unique way. On top of it, certain cell systems simply aren't participating in it, especially your lower end cell companies like Cricket. I haven't checked on them recently, but they just refuse to participate. They're not going to do it. And it's a voluntary system, so we can't make them. And on top of that, if you have a lower end older cell phone, it may just not have the software in it to receive these alerts. So these are all things that combine to make the wireless emergency alert a bit of a hit or miss of whether it's effective or not. Now, the question was asked earlier about the propagation map. I forgot that I had this slide, but this is the propagation map specifically for Sonoma County, but specifically from one transmitter, which is located on Mount Sonoma. So the green areas are the places that are supposed to receive the alert. And I will tell you from personal experience being in some of these areas, yes and no. However, I also say if you happen to be in the upper left-hand corner of the county, even though it looks like it has terrible coverage, what you're doing there is instead of relying on the Mount Sonoma transmitter, you just rely on the Point Arena transmitter, which is up in Humboldt County. Gets great reception up there. And we have already worked it out with National Weather Service that when we send out an alert, they automatically forward it to the Eureka office of the National Weather Service that then retransmits it onto the Point Arena. And if all that is gobbledygook and it doesn't understand, don't understand it, don't worry at all. I understand completely. I can explain it better later on. Okay, so we've talked about how we're going to get the messages out to you, what systems we're going to use. I want to talk a little bit about the information that we're going to tell you and what we may not tell you. First of all, we're going to identify ourselves. We're going to say we're Sonoma County Sheriff Office, we're Santa Rosa Fire Department, whatever it is. You probably won't hear too much from the Department of Emergency Management because I am really just providing a service to the first responders. I don't usually send out alerts on my own. I'm usually doing it for somebody. Now, it's important for us to do this for a variety of reasons. First of all, so that you recognize that, yes, this is a legitimate phone call and it's not somebody that's trying to contact you about your auto warranty or something like that. So if you do hear us say that this is coming from the sheriff, hopefully you'll listen to it a little better. A lot of people hang up on us before even finding out what we're all about. But that's one of the first things we want to do. This is also important because we have had other counties in the area that will remain nameless but start with Napa and Mendocino have sent out emergency messages and not identified themselves. And when they don't identify themselves and it spills over into our territory, this can create all kinds of confusion. Mendocino County sent out an alert for a fire that was on River Road. Well, we have a river road. They have a river road, but it was causing a lot of people a lot of concern because they were wondering if it was the Sonoma River Road or the Mendocino River Road. So that's why we always identify ourselves. We are going to try and tell you what the threat is, but I've got an asterisk there because we try and go for speed. We want to let you know as early as possible what's going on, and there are some situations where we may not be able to tell you what the threat is because we just don't have time to put together a cohesive package for you. I have a lot of pre-written, pre-scripted emergency messages in my system that within, in fact, this happened a year and a half ago. We had a fire near Pengrove. From the time that the sheriff called me to the time that I got the alert out, it took me 4 minutes. Well, the problem is that while it was 4 minutes, so it was rapid and they got the message out there, it wasn't the best message in the world. It didn't give everybody everything that they may have wanted, but the important thing was is that they knew something was going on and that they were being told to evacuate. We're going to try and tell you what the location is, but most of the time, what we're going to be telling you is where you are to get out of. We're not going to tell you where the fire is, not because we don't think you don't deserve it. It's just very often we don't know where the fire is. And even if we did know where the fire is, we may not have a good way of explaining to you where the fire is. And I hear this from a lot of people, well, I want to know where the fire is so that I can make a decision about whether I want to evacuate or not. Got it. I just don't necessarily have that capability to put that together. Once the incident has gotten a lot more mature, yes, I can give you that information. At 2 in the morning, I may have something as simple as there's a fire somewhere up on Mark West Springs Road. And I'm not going to really send that out because that's not going to help you too much. But what I am going to tell you, I'm going to use multiple reference points for you. First of all, I'm going to include in it what the zone name and number is that I want you to get out of. So if you're, up in the hills, it might be 4D1. If you're in Santa Rosa, it might be Fountain Grove 1. We're going to include that zone name or number. We're also going to include a neighborhood name. So it might be, 2C9, but that's also the casino that's up there. So we'll include some name. So even if you've got the zone name and you don't have your zone name memorized, we're going to try and trigger your memory by giving it a neighborhood name as well. We're also going to tell you what the boundaries are, south of this road, north of this road, east of this river, west of this location. This gives you 3 different ways for you to internalize where we're telling you to get out of or where the threat is. Now, we're also going to give you a recommended action. And I hate to say recommended because I don't want this to be a recommendation. I want it to be an order, but we don't have the legal authority to tell you to evacuate. But we do want to be able to tell you that, hey, we think you should either shelter in place, we think you should evacuate now, or that you should be prepared to evacuate. Those are the big 3. So that will be included in the message about which of those we strongly recommend that you do. Now, what we may not be able to tell you, like I said, we may not be able to tell the exact location of the threat. I hear this a lot. They said, well, we want to know what our safe evacuation route is. Nope, not going to tell you that. I am absolutely not going to tell you that unless there's only one left. And the reason is if the moment I tell people your evacuation route is this road, then everybody takes that road. Well, there may be 3 or 4 other perfectly good roads that are going to be empty, but nobody's taking them because everybody's trying to take the one official evacuation route. Now, what we are going to try and tell you, if we have the information, is what routes not to take. We don't want you to take Joy Road because it's closed. That is something that might be in the messaging, but for the most part, we're only going to tell you negatives. We're not going to tell you, please take this road. We're going to tell you what not to take if we can. We're going to try and tell you, although we may not be successfully able to do it, where evacuation centers are, simply because if the thing is moving fast, we may not have time to have an evacuation center set up. We need to wake people up. We need to get materials and supplies moving. It may be several hours before we have a evacuation center set up. I also recommend that you don't go to evacuation centers. This is a good time to be talking to your friends and relatives and making agreements that, hey, if I get evacuated, when I come to your place, I'll bring a bottle of wine, something like that. So, but eventually, and we will get this information out once our evacuation center is up and running, then by all means, we'll be getting that out to everybody. The initial alert and warning is very basic information. The best thing to do is to get on that radio station, television, or social media to get more details. I simply don't have the capability of giving a great deal of information in my alert and warnings. They're very basic. We want you to then go to those sources or go and call 211, which is also a great source of information. Please, please, please do not call 911 unless you are having an actual emergency. You don't want to be calling them to get information. They're usually inundated. So, well, let me talk a little bit about what we're going to show you. Now, almost all of our alerts that go out are going to come with this cool little URL, but you can use it right now if you want to. And that is www.socopsa.org. Now, I've never done this on a Zoom meeting. I'm going to try and click this and see if it comes up with the map. Shall we experiment?
Yeah, do it.
Alrighty. Okay, can you see a web page?
Yes.
Okay, so Soco PSA is our landing page, and it might be a little small. I apologize for that. The Soco PSA is our landing page of what our current information is. So as we have disasters happening on this left side under alerts, warnings, and orders, you're going to see every active alert, warning, and order that is there. It may take us a couple minutes to get somebody in there to type it in, but as long as it's an active one, you're going to see that. And as you can see right now, the only thing going on is that pesky coronavirus pandemic. But during a fire, this will be many, many pages long, talking about specific issues. But something that we've just added on over here is see if your zone is affected, and we got two ways of doing it. The easiest one is to just go ahead and type in your address right down here. I'll go ahead and do that for 2300 County Center Drive. If I can type.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got an R in there, sorry about that. There we go. And it auto-populates for where I am. And as you can see here, it tells me what zone I'm in. I'm in Santa Rosa, City of Santa Rosa Zone Northeast 1. The status is normal. Now, if it was under an evacuation order or an evacuation warning, it would say something different. And then there is no description. Interesting. I'll have to check up on that one. That's City of Santa Rosa for you. But also here, if you're ever interested, there is a map. So if I click on this link, and you can go ahead and get this right now and know what your evacuation zone map is. This is Santa Rosa's Northeast 1 evacuation zone. I think every single zone at this point has one of these maps pre-populated in there. If it's something you want, you can go ahead and print one out, have it on your refrigerator, and that way you know what your evacuation zone looks like. The other way of doing it is to just go into the county fire incident map right here, and hopefully this one will come up. Hopefully you see a blue screen with white dancing things. And this is the live GIS map of what's going on in the county. And this is a fairly robust map for information. Can everybody see the map?
Yes.
Okay. Certain things you're going to see here, these big do not enter signs, those are closed roads. And we're getting those in live time from Transportation and Public Works. So you can see in there when the time comes, we will try and actually mark where the road closures are going to be so that if you were to go into this map, you should be able to get an idea of what is available. You can obviously zoom in on it. These little red arrows represent the fire cameras. You can see the direction they're pointing. If you click on there and go to the webcam link, you will actually see what that fire camera is seeing. That helps you visualize what's going on out there. In addition to that, the things you can normally see, these little blue dots, We click on that, and that is a webcam showing the traffic on that particular roadway. Right now, most of all of them on Highway 101. We're hoping someday that that will expand. But most importantly, and it's not showing it right now because thankfully we have no disaster going on, all the zones are represented here. I will, me personally, or my assistant Jorge, we will change the color of these zones when the time comes. If you see a red zone, that's an evacuation order is in place for that. If it's yellow, it's an evacuation warning. There's a couple other colors. I'm not going to do that right now because this is a live map. I don't want to give anybody a rude surprise. So,
Sam, could you, I missed the link for that one. Could you just drop that one in the chat?
Sure thing. Let me
Great.
do that right now. And I do see I have some questions. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I can field those for you while you drop that in the chat. So I think Ann asked the question, how do I learn what my neighborhood name is? I think, Ann, if you just drop your address and the thing that Sam just showed us, it will pull up. Is that correct, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. If you do that, it'll show you what your address is. So.
Okay, let's see. Let me see if we have any others hanging out there. Lynn had mentioned that they use a system called Bright Arrow, I think, and it's like a telephone system, I think, that I think works really well for neighborhood groups. Have you heard of that, Sam?
I haven't heard of it. I'm familiar with a lot of different systems. I'm not familiar with that specific one. I don't endorse any system, but Soco Alert using Code Red is our system.
Yeah, and let me go look and make sure I said the title correctly, because Lynn, you can help me out verbally if you want to jump in. Now I can't find where that question was. Okay, I think, Marika, do you think we're caught up? Was that the only one that was kind of hanging out there?
Yeah, that's the only one that I caught.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, I think we're caught up with questions.
Okay, let me go back to my screen. I will show you a screenshot, which will show what the map will look like. There we go. So that is for zone 1B1, which is way up there near Annapolis. That's what the color would look like after we change it. Okay, so a lot of questions that I get, and how am I doing on time? I think I've already gone well over, but
we're at 2:57. I don't think folks will mind if we go a little long. Sometimes we go to 2:30.
Okay, we're getting pretty close to the end, so let me just go through very quickly. I get a lot of questions. Why didn't I get the message? And this kind of ties in with all the issues that we have with some of these systems. But the most common one at this point is you weren't in the alerted area. We don't alert the entire county whenever something happens. We are focusing our alerts on the people that are threatened by it. And also, we've been very fortunate that we have had no evacuations in over almost 2 years now. So I hear a lot of people, why haven't I gotten an evacuation in 2 years? Well, because we haven't had an evacuation in 2 years. So that's a good thing. The cell system doesn't get it to you for a variety of reasons. We talked about that. All the different cell providers have different protocols for how they handle the information. And unfortunately, that's just the reality we work in. All right, this is my favorite. I've had more than one person, in fact, many people call me over the years and say, you did not alert me. And surprise, surprise, I can actually go into Soco Alert and it records whether you pick up the phone or not. But a lot of the times we did try and call your number, but somebody didn't answer the phone. And one reason is you didn't recognize the phone number. And unfortunately, we have created a society that has trained everybody not to answer their phone unless they recognize that phone number. And that really hampers my ability to reach out to people. If you want to, you can go ahead and put this phone number into your system. That's the phone number that's going to show up when my alerting system tries to call you. Problem is, it's an 866 number. And 866 numbers are probably somebody trying to get a hold of you about, you know, car insurance or something like that. So people aren't going to do it. But if you want to, that is the phone number. We've been working with the vendor, asking them, you got to give us some ability to do something besides send out an 866 number. We're still working with them on that one.
Oh, gosh.
Your battery was dead. This is very common during a power shutoff. If your cell phone does not have power, I cannot reach you. And this is very common. Your phone was on vibrate, it was on airplane mode, do not disturb. I have no way of countering that. If you have turned off your phone, or if it's on any one of these things, I just can't get a hold of you. And so, unfortunately, you got to help me out on that one a little bit. The power was out, especially with landlines. Can't get a hold of you. There's no way around that. And yes, I'm going to own up to the fact that we have made mistakes. Some of them are pretty darn funny. Some of them are pretty darn tragic. But we do make mistakes. We try our best not to make mistakes. But very often we're doing this under really less than ideal situations at 2 in the morning. We're getting incomplete information from the first responders in the field. We do the very best we can. If we find we make a mistake, we've got a very good system for trying to correct those mistakes. But we do, in fact, make mistakes.
Yeah, we don't need to rush. I just checked the time. We can still go half hour. Yeah, we're set up to go till 3:30 if we need to. So.
Oh, fabulous! I'm almost done anyway. But let's talk about some of the important lessons learned that we've had over the last 5 years, especially prior to it. There was a lot of hesitancy at the nuns tubs. Should we do this alert? This might panic people. To heck with that. I am all over that. I think I've alerted about 380,000 people since I've been in this position. I'm over it. I don't mind waking you up. It makes me a bit of a sociopath, I think, but that's okay. My job is to wake people up and give them the option of finding out more information so they can make decisions that work for them. So we don't hesitate. If there's any significant threat to life, we go ahead and light the system up, and we apologize later if it turns out not to be that big of a thing. We try and use everything. What we've learned, again, through painful experience, no one system is 100% effective. No one system is really 50% effective. For us to be effective, we have to use everything at our disposal within reason. Now, there's of course, there is reason. I mean, if there's a small house fire, we're not going to fire off a wireless emergency alert for the entire county. We're not going to use the emergency alert system. But if the threat is big enough that it's going to affect a significant number of people and that there's very little time, I'm going to use everything that I can, and hopefully one of them will make through to you. We try and keep things simple. Unfortunately, time is the most important element I have. If I spend a lot of time crafting the perfect message that gives you the perfect information, you may get it shortly after your house is burned down. My main goal is to get you alert that something's going on, give you as much information as I can in the shortest possible amount of time, and then follow it up with more information later on. But keeping it simple is important for us. And lastly, go big. I don't spend a lot of time thinking, well, I'm going to just get this area, and no, maybe this. No. If I think that there's a significant threat, I don't mind waking up half the county. I go big at that point. If I think it's a large enough emergency to wake up 10,000, then I might as well wake up 15,000. It's okay. Those other 5,000 that aren't affected, they'll go back to sleep. Improvements that we've made, I've talked about the database in Soco Alert. The single biggest thing that we've done to improve it is we were the first county in the state of California to get PG&E to give us their customer service database for inclusion in our alert and warning database, which was huge. It very much improved the system. We continue to improve the database and try and find where our holes are and trying to fill those holes so we can get as many people as possible. We use a lot of templates, pre-recorded messages, pre-written messages, so we don't have to think at 2 in the morning. We just pull out the template, say, this is what we want, change it slightly to hit the conditions and let it go. Training is another big one. I spend a lot of my time training a lot of potential people to operate the system. I don't want to be the single point of failure. If I get knocked on the head by a falling beam and I'm out of the fight and nobody can operate the system, it doesn't do anybody any good. So we have a very aggressive training program in the county so that we have a lot of people that can step up to the plate if I'm not available. And lastly, under Soco Alert, the pre-recorded messaging, we're unique in the United States. I have 211 unincorporated zones in the county. Each one of them has its own personal pre-recorded message for an evacuation and a warning in English and Spanish, which means that we had to record 844 separate messages. We've done that. They're all loaded up and ready to go. Under the wireless emergency alert system, that system continues to improve, although it's got its flaws. We don't have a lot of control over that. We've done more geofencing with it, which allows us to tighten the area that it's going to affect. It now has the capability of sending alerts in Spanish. It did not have that 3 years ago, which still boggles my mind, to tell you the truth. But it now has the ability to send out Spanish, and every message that we send out includes a Spanish translation. It used to be a 90-character limit, which is almost nothing. It's been expanded to 360, and we're also able to include embedded links like going to that socopsa.org. You know about the Noaa weather radios. We are actually the ability to send out those messages from the county. We are the first county in the United States to actually do that. We were picked as a test county by the National Weather Service, and we did that. And of course, we've done the radio grants to distribute it. And I did remember that there was a question about that. Almost all of the grant radios are already distributed. However, if you do have anybody that is hard of hearing, please contact me, and I still have some of them that are designed specifically for people with hearing issues. Future improvements that we're going to do. Carolyn, who's on this, helped me on this. We've been doing database auditing, finding out how accurate that database is. We're working on some way of embedding maps into our messaging so that people can better visualize it without having to go to a website. The WEA, the Wireless Emergency Alert, we're going to improve geofencing. Noaa weather radios, again, is something that we're trying to improve. We have been selected by the National Weather Service as being a test county for the Partial County Alerting Initiative. Right now, if I send off a Noaa weather radio alert, it is the entire county or none at all. And that's not necessarily good. If I'm warning people about tsunamis and people in the Mayacamas Mountains are getting it, they're going to get very confused. We're hoping that that's going to be operational in 2023 or 2024. We're kind of excited about that. In the Western United States, only us in Clark County in Nevada were selected for that. We're trying to come up with ways of extending the signal. We know that there are dead spots. We're trying to come up with a retrans system that will be able to reach into that. It's more complex technically than I thought it was. We're actually looking at possibly using a satellite system for rebounding into those isolated areas. I can't give you a timeline on that because it's all very experimental, and I have a lot of people working on it, but unfortunately they're on their own timeline. That is it. I apologize. I think I went a little longer than I was supposed to. This is my contact information. If you call me or email me, I respond to everybody. With that, are there any questions?
Yeah, there's a few. Not a problem. Yeah, you didn't go long. So if you don't mind, stop sharing, and then we'll open it up for some questions. There's a couple in the queue that I want to get to, though. Carolyn was asking us about the 72-hour battery backup. Is that, it's believed that that's a legal requirement? And if so, can you tell us if in fact it is? And if so, who enforces that? Or is it just kind of an honor system thing?
That's a great question. So, of course, all those are, it's kind of a gray area because, of course, remember, and we're talking about cell phone towers. Cell phone towers, unfortunately, are actually managed by the FCC, which is a federal organization. So I can't really tell the cell companies to do anything, or if I can, but they're going to ignore me. However, in the state of California, there's the California Public Utilities Commission, which does, in fact, have some say with them. And the CPUC, this was a topic of conversation. In fact, Chris Godley, my boss, was very much an advocate with this, and a lot of the cell phone companies have very much voluntarily improved their battery systems. I mean, it's in their best interest to have the cell system up and running. I think that when we got into the power outages that were happening with PSPS, I think it caught them by surprise. I didn't think they realized how bad their batteries are. So I do know that there's been a lot of work done in that to try and get that to a 72-hour range. I honestly don't know if it is a legal requirement, but I definitely believe that most of them have been moving in that direction. For those, for certain select cell towers, I do also know, because we've seen this in action, is that phone company will occasionally get a generator out there and hook it up. That way they don't have to rely on the battery. But I don't think I can give you a good answer. I can get back to you on that one. I can ask somebody who's smarter than me, which is actually a great number of people that are smarter than me.
Okay. Kudos, Sam, from Steve. He says, and I'm quoting what he put in the chat, I can confirm that the weather radio you gave to my hearing impaired landlords at the August 4th event in Occidental does indeed wake them up with the strobe added to the sound alert. So thank you for that. So that's I love hearing about that. And then I've got a couple questions. I just want to share with folks with regard to the evacuating, practice different routes. You know, this has come up before in my experience in talking with folks. You know, if you get used to driving the same route out and in, back and forth all the time, and don't practice driving other routes around your neighborhood to go to places, when it's dark, when it's rainy, when it's smoky, when in the worst of possible conditions, if you have to drive another direction, it's really comforting to be familiar with that route and know those landmarks, et cetera, and not have the anxiety of not knowing where you are. So my advice is, if you have more than one way in and out of where you are, practice those routes, because the way you normally go might not be the way you're able to go in an emergency. So to me, that's really huge. Can you, I know it might be a little outside the scope of this, can you talk a little bit about the evacuation centers? Are those just temporary centers for folks that to be there for, you know, a day or two, and then they have to go find a more permanent or semi-permanent spot? How do those work?
Well, that's a great question. It depends kind of on the situation. If it's a fairly small incident where we only have a few, maybe a dozen people that are affected by it, we will set up an evacuation shelter, or more than likely what we call a TEP, or temporary evacuation point, where we just get everybody so that they're safe and out of the area. And if it's a small number, we're usually actually going to our Red Cross partners, and the Red Cross kind of takes it from there. They usually have hotel vouchers they can give people, and they can take care of them, but that's for a small number. If we get into a larger situation, like again, the Nuns Tubs, we had, I think on the first night, we had over 4,000 people in our evacuation shelters. That's a completely different animal. There simply aren't enough hotel rooms available to take care of everybody, and even if they did, the cost would be pretty astronomical for us. And of course, when I say 4,000 people, there were far more than 4,000 that were evacuated, and a lot of those people had already gone to the hotels and gotten them early on. So that just means that out of the, I believe we estimate about 100,000 people were evacuated in Nuns Tubs, and about 4,000 ended up on our shelter. The shelters are very austere. Basically, we're taking over the fairgrounds or the Veterans Hall. We actually have 150 buildings throughout Sonoma County that are possible evacuation shelters, but usually it's the big ones in Santa Rosa, the fairgrounds, at Cloverdale and Petaluma that we're using, just because it's most convenient. You are guaranteed that we will have a cot for you. We will give you a blanket, we'll give you a pillow, and we will feed you. We will get 3 meals, and the food is not going to be good. I mean, you're just not going to have a lot of choices, and it isn't because we don't love you. It's just because at 2 in the morning, trying to get all that together, we have to go very simple and very basic. But that said, the longer that you're in that shelter, the longer that we're going to do a couple of things. First of all, we're going to try and get you out of the shelter. If we can get you a hotel room, we're going to get you there. And of course, that's going to be prioritized based on a lot of things. Obviously, families with small children are probably going to go first. We're going to encourage people to go to friends and family. But we still had operational shelters after the Nuns Tubs 30 days into the disaster. We still had people that were in those shelters. So it can be a long-term thing. But we will, as things improve, we'll try and improve it. We'll get entertainment in there. We'll get medical care in there. We have mobile pharmacies that we're able to activate and get in there
Oh,
and
wow.
fill people's prescriptions in case they had to leave their pills behind. But the first 24 to 72 hours in those shelters can be sparse, especially in a large-scale disaster where we have a lot of things going on. And Jeffrey Peters points out that the Cloverdale Emergency Shelter has very tasty MREs. They are good, but I will tell you from personal experience, after you've lived on them for about a month, they don't become quite as palatable.
Yeah,
So.
and you would know, you've got a military background behind you too, so I didn't share that with folks in my verbal bio. So that almost sounds like we might want to have you back to just talk about the evacuation piece of all this. Would you be?
I'm happy to, or we actually have another person in our staff who is focused just on evacuations,
Okay.
and they can talk. So it sounds like we're winding down. Can I just say one last thing?
Yeah,
Sam, I have one more thing too, just to
right.
add before you say your last thing. We I think Erica had a question which I believe she stepped out of the room for, when she might have answered already, but just to reiterate, she's interested in learning more about the radio giveaway program. And did you say that they have all been given out already? Just the one the hearing impaired?
I might be wrong. I think Sonoma Fire might have some left. I'm not sure though. That they still had some a couple of months ago, but I haven't checked on them recently. I still have about 100 or 150 or so, but those radios that I have are specifically people with hearing issues, deaf, hard of hearing, that sort of thing. And if you want one of those, call me. I will definitely get you one.
Great.
Cool.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, that's funny, Marika. I did direct text Eric and said, I'm going to close on that one. That's a good one to close on. So perfect. Last thing I will close on, Sam, real quick, is there anything that we can do to help you? We meaning Fire Safe Sonoma or any of the COPs, or, are there ways that we can help you guys in your mission?
I think the biggest one we kind of talked about was, help people understand, to be ready. We have a lot of resources on socoemergency.org that we talk about this, about things that you can have. We have a downloadable evacuation planning guide for you that is easily downloadable. Fill in the blanks, and it helps you think about what you want to do for evacuation, so you don't have to think about it at 2 in the morning. I'm getting ready to start a series of videos on alert and warning where I go more into depth like I have here, so that people can see those. So steer them towards our information sources and other information sources. I think really it comes down to is that people that are better informed are going to make better decisions when the disaster comes. And I think that's the biggest thing that you can do to help.
Yeah, I think it's just practicing and getting comfortable with all of this, and having, for me, we've been preaching this for a while now, is that don't rely on any one system for your means of communication, and don't wait until you see the smoke signals, to tell you to leave. I mean, that's the most archaic signaling system there is. We don't want to do that. So
can I leave you with the last thought?
Yes, please.
Okay, that's going to be an ambush. Chief Nichols, I see you. I've been trying to get a hold of you. Call me. Okay, thank you very much for. Oh, did he bail out? No, there he is. Okay.
I see you, Sam. I'll call you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I think I went way over time, but hopefully it wasn't a waste of time.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Sam. That was fantastic.
Yeah, and thank you guys for coming. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much, Sam. Appreciate it. And then everybody who attended, thank you so much for attending. I hope you enjoyed this and got something out of it. So yeah, and then reminder, next month we have IBHS on to talk about that system and all the work they're doing. So, all right, we'll see you guys then. We'll call that a wrap. Thank you very much, everybody.